What would it take for us to discover our real talent? How can we get to the root of our undiscovered talent and use it to unlock unexplored opportunities for ourselves and for our nation? What if I told you it was about not really having a choice, but to make things work? Generation Z, or those born after 1995, have been born into a digital world, one full of choices. Even us millennials, born in the 1980s and the early 1990s, have often needed to travel to discover ourselves or taken a gap year to explore, options our parents probably never had. And to change the way we think or to encourage us to work in a particular direction, you often have to tap into our actual belief systems. How many of you have had that intern who quit just because they weren't feeling it? How many of you have waited and waited to find that perfect person to make sure that you were truly in love? We all know that marriages in our generation are getting later and later. Look at the movie Gamechangers, for instance. They didn't try to change our behavior. What they did was tap into our belief systems and use influencers to show us that being vegan might actually be the healthier way to be. And it worked. Millions of people have actually watched that movie and been convinced by a documentary on Netflix. This isn't such a new concept really. Marketers have been using the ability to change consumer behavior by actually changing their attitudes towards certain beliefs and then eventually using it to sell their products. What they're doing is fixing cognitive dissonance, aligning people's values and beliefs with their behaviors and then resulting in a corresponding behavior change. But what happens when there's a drastic event like COVID-19? Our behavior has to change overnight. And that, in some cases, may also force us to change our attitudes, leading to a different way to essentially solve for cognitive dissonance. Why is this interesting? And why is it especially interesting for the future of work? We've had to stop traveling, embrace the way that we have Zoom parties, Netflix parties, adopt technology. But it's also made us explore some certain rapid industry changes, change the way that we respond to health and hygiene, adapt and appreciate some things that we possibly would never have done before, and done it much faster because we didn't really have a choice. More interestingly, it's allowed us to push ourselves and access undiscovered talent that we had within us. I run an edtech company called Talorang, where we provide career training and jobs to Generation Z. We surveyed many of our customers to ask them, how has this change affected them and the way that they approach work? We found that people have lost jobs in industries that they cared about, and they have left industries that they believed in. Corporates have had to let employees work from home even when they didn't want to. And companies have had to virtually hire people, often democratizing talent, allowing those in smaller, remote areas to work and access job opportunities that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. People have had to improve several types of skills, from their communication skills to their coding skills, and of course, rapidly improve their comfort with technology. So, we have ultimately changed the way that we work. We've changed our behavior a whole lot, and we did it. But was this just a temporary change, or has it also fundamentally changed people's beliefs? 94% of our respondents say that their attitudes have been changed by this experience. 78% of them have changed their view towards work-life balance, and 70% of them have changed their view towards work from home. 57% now believe that they will spend much more energy on their health and their overall hygiene. But more importantly, they have all been pushed to learn new skills. We have all been pushed outside our comfort zone, and we have had to make things work. Not surprisingly, in the US, over 50% of love marriages end in divorce. But less than 4% of arranged marriages end in divorce because they have no option sometimes but to make things work. In a survey that we conducted pre-pandemic with Gen Z, we found that passion and interest is a key driver, contributing more than 40% to how Gen Z makes their career decisions. Passion counted more than skills, aptitude, or even their previous experiences, which counted for less than 10% each in how they would pick their careers. But today, 46% of our generation is now focused on learning new skills. We're pushing ourselves outside our comfort zone because we don't have an option. So what can we take away from this shift? While we had no option but to do this because of this catastrophic event, what can we actually learn from this experience? Can we learn, for example, to build new skills which are the need of the hour anyway, instead of waiting for another big event to hit us? Can we adapt as required to where we need ourselves, our country, and the world to be 5, 10, or 15 years from now? Because after all, the world is changing very quickly, and we need to build skills now, even if that makes us a little uncomfortable, even when it doesn't seem required immediately, so that we can be relevant later. A few years ago, I traveled across India to understand how people would respond to online learning. From Visakhapatnam to Patiala, Goa to Lucknow, Chennai to Nasik, I spoke to thousands of young people and faculty and ran surveys to understand their attitude towards online education. Many of them requested us to come in and conduct employability sessions in person. They said it would take a while for people to adapt to online. They said it's impossible to learn certain skills digitally. And now, many of those institutions are delivering their very own online programs. Many of those same students who were not confident about learning online have reached out to us for online employability training. Surprisingly, we're seeing equally good outcomes, both in terms of learning as well as satisfaction, online. While it is uncomfortable sometimes for our customers and for us, perhaps that's when the maximum growth is actually happening, because we're being pushed and challenged. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for passion, but I think it's worth exploring areas that the world needs us to change for and take inspiration to build a career that is not just inward looking, but also forward looking. Because it is only when we stop doing what we always know and explore outside what we know that we learn new things and we find undiscovered talents within ourselves. As a nation, we could grow our capability and diversify the skills that we bring to the table. We could increase our creativity, developing an ancillary suite of skills that would make us more competitive and more relevant on the global stage. For all you know, we might just be happy while adapting as well. After all, who says that the arranged marriage folks from yesterday are madly in love today? Thank you.